My talking point is the Battle Royal, and it's back to a little bit back to Vince Russo, actually, in some ways, because first of all, let me say the Battle Royal is rubbish. It's a 15-team Battle Royal, so it's 30 men, which is insane. It lasts for sort of eight and a half minutes, and they were stretching the possibilities here in terms of tag teams. So, they've got 2 tag teams from the Nation, they've got 2 tag teams from Los Boricuas, they've got a team from the DOA, they've got a team which is Chains and Bradshaw, Chains being in the DOA, Bradshaw not being in the DOA, which is just weird. They've got Scott Taylor and Brian Christopher together for the first time, I believe. This was their first sort of proper tag team outing, but Brian Christopher prior to this point was a heel. Scott Taylor prior to this point was a babyface, but they just chucked them together because they were like, well, we need two wrestlers to go together. You've got the recently kind of created Midnight Express, the long since not as good as they used to be Quebecers. Just a hideous waste of space on the roster basically all the way through. I think there's who's Too Cold Scorpio team with? I can't remember who he's teamed with, but he's teamed with someone in this match as well. Steve Blackman and Flash Funk are a tag team. And what's that about?
Lovely.
And the 15th team, because there's a mystery 15th team that I've not been announced prior to the show, is the Legion of Doom 2000 though, I should call them, which is what they were called here. They had last been seen having split up effectively in a brawl on Raw with each other, disappeared for a couple of weeks, and then they arrived here with the new look, slightly new music, and Sunny as their manager. Sunny seeming to be the kind of dream team manager because she managed 3 or 4 teams to the tag team titles a couple of years before. It's terrible. It's not a good match. It's really poor. But in it were signs or indications of what WWE's product was at the time, and one of the strengths of WWE's product, which is that nearly everybody had something going on. And this is the sort of flip side to what I was saying about Shamrock with Russo's booking, is that because he was so into like flipping people babyface and heel, turning people, having people betray others all the time, and pretty much you could go every single episode of Raw, somebody was doing something you weren't expecting them to do. It meant that in nearly all the cases in his match, a bunch of people have got stuff going on. So at one point, Barry Windham runs down to the ring, attacks Chains and throws him out because Barry Windham and Bradshaw had just recently split up, having been the new Blackjacks previously. Kurgan comes out, attacks Recon and Sniper because they'd left the Truth Commission, which was managed by the Jackal, who was Kurgan's manager. Now, none of those things ever mattered, ever meant anything, and those wrestlers were likely never mean anything and never matter. They had a lot of poor wrestlers on the roster at the time, and that's because they didn't have any choice. WCW were hoovering up all the talent at a rate of knots. They had a humongous roster, and WWE were left with what they were left with, and ultimately did what they could with it. So it required somebody to come along and actually try and fashion something interesting out of these different acts, and that's what they did nearly every week. And though the result of that didn't really mean anything and wouldn't be remembered by anybody, ultimately it meant that Raw each week passed fun. It was fun. It wasn't like a chore ever to get through. Nearly every segment something took place, even if it was a run-in, as I say, by Barry Windham, for example, to go after Bradshaw, 2 wrestlers that very few people cared about, but something was happening with them, and it didn't affect anything else. It didn't make anything else feel less important because, as I said before, Vince McMahon had the filter for the stuff that really mattered and made the money, and so it just added up to something that meant Raw was incredibly watchable, in fact unmissable, because it was just constantly things were going on. Even as early as this point, when WWE was still losing the Monday Night Wars, they had a show that was really watchable, and it's because of things like what happened in this battle royal. So terrible match, but I just thought a really interesting indication of WWE's product and the way the things they were trying to do with it constantly week after week. In all that, I didn't even say who won. It was, of course, the Legion of Doom 2000, last eliminating the new Midnight Express of Bob Holly and Bart Gunn. Another 2 wrestlers that were going absolutely nowhere, and they were just trying to repackage, try and find something for them to do. So yeah, that's who won, and that gave the Legion of Doom a chance to face the tag team champions at the next month's pay-per-view, Unforgiven.
I have to say that 16-year-old me was a fan of Sunny. I was always more a Sunny guy than Sable, albeit after some of her more unsavoury actions and videos, I'm less of a Sunny fan in 2023.
Less of a fan, but not apparently completely off.
not completely off. She'll never be completely gone. It took the LOD 2000 a long time to get their new gear off. You'd think that they'd have practiced this, and the crowd were into LOD, and I you know what, it was crap, but I didn't mind it. It's okay, you know, it was about getting them back out there, getting Sunny with them, etc., and it set up a future tag team title match, so I was okay with this.
Yeah, I wasn't. This is very much a prime example of just less is more. It was just way too much going on to like trying to take notes. I practically abandoned taking notes because I just realized that there's no way that I can really keep track of what's going on. Hell, the announcers were struggling to keep track of what was going on. It was just a ridiculous amount of teams all in there at once. This was not for me. It just didn't work. I mean, you know, the crowd liked it, so okay, you know, I guess in the grander scheme of things, it clearly did, but it wasn't to my taste. Just too much going on. You can't keep track of it, and I'm not a big fan of battle royals. I mean, you know, a good 90% of it is kick, punch, throw somebody over the top rope. It's just, it doesn't feel like there's anything to it. So yeah, for me, this was almost a fast forward option.
You know, it's a shame as well. Up until the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, every single battle royal that took place on the WrestleMania card had a different element or a different name to it. So, for example, this is the tag team battle royal. At WrestleMania 16, there's a hardcore battle royal. At WrestleMania 17, there's a gimmick battle royal. At WrestleMania 2, there was the WWE versus NFL battle royal. At WrestleMania 4 was the regular battle royal. But as I said, that's fine because there's no other repeat of that until you get to Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. There's a Miss Divas WrestleMania battle royal in, I think, at WrestleMania 25 or something. I like the fact they never repeated it. It was always something different every time until they started doing the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and then they let themselves down. That's a disappointment for me. I get it. Battle royals are not very good, but it's 8 minutes. Come on. It was, and they wanted to get everyone on the card, and this is how they did it.
No. That will never wash with me.
I know you don't. I know, and I agree. I don't think they need to get everyone on the card, but if they're gonna do it, let them do it. Let them do it in 8 minutes rather than 4 extra hours.
The options shouldn't be, you know, have to do it, or it should just be don't do it.
I agree, but they are going to do it, right? So if they're going to do it, let them do it like this, where they get it overdone with really quickly.